Monster High. Yes, Monster High is probably the greatest thing to ever grace on this planet. Like, genuinely. If you were an early 2000s kid, this was the crack cocaine, even the meth of the Tide Pod eating generation. Everyone and their grandma's grandma had at least one of these dolls, or at least knew about Monster High, because of how big a boom of it was. And I think a big reason about that was it was something a bit different compared to the old doll line. Barbie had been the ruler over all these doll departments. Everyone had them, but sooner or later she started to get stale. She kept trying to get new jobs, but all of them were worse. I think at one point she started to become a drug dealer, and ever since the divorce with Ken, things have just really gone downhill for her. But that was when the shining generation, the blissful emo gothness of Monster High that took over every child's heart, where you were finally able to be the most epic Frankenstein girl you could ever be. But that's just me talking about the dolls. The characters in the overall movies were also top tier. You got the baddest baddie, 𝖘𝖕𝖊𝖈𝖎. You got the really epic snake dude, Deuce. You got the girl boss incarnate of Claudine. Like, what couldn't you have loved about this? Okay, jokes aside, the rise and fall of Monster High is kind of freaking tragic. Now, I'm pretty bad at describing it, but in a nutshell, what happened was Mattel, the company that sold Monster High, it kind of went bankrupt. I think it was about a lawsuit or something. If I do more research, I'll put it right up here. But alas, despite the awful reboot, Monster High was dead in the water. But you know, at least I enjoyed it. For all the hardships it went through and the sad decline of it, I am glad I was able to have a good part of my childhood stay with me and not be ruined.
This is so cool.
Hey Mattel.
Frankie.
Who can tell me
Hey Mattel.
the greatest threat to Monster
What's this? Okay, now before you guys start to judge me for thinking like any form of change or reboot to a series makes it automatically bad, I genuinely don't care. If you're gonna change the series or do like a big reboot, I don't care as long as it's good. But this movie, it's not good. So in honor of the spooky month, I'm now going to be dissecting the reasons why the movie does not work, and yet Monster High does work, and the huge differences it makes, and overall why Monster High worked so well. So pull up a chair, grab your Frankie Stein doll, and watch as I over-explain something really stupid. Okay, listen, again, I don't really care if you change huge things about the characters or the cast, as long as it's good, but at the very least, you can make sense of it. I don't really understand why they made Claudine the main character and just generally changed the three, because it doesn't improve or make the movie any better, but why would you make Claudine the main character? Frankie Stein's perfect. Although Frankie definitely isn't the fan favorite, she's pretty perfect MC because she's kind of the best way to introduce the school and all of its wackiness, because it has to be explained to her because she's like an idiot and like 5 days old. Wait, didn't one guy have a crush on her? And generally in the movie, Claudine just kind of sucks. Like, she could easily be replaced with Frankie Stein. Why would you change it? And for the record, about the whole like Frankie being non-binary, I don't hate it. I just don't really care. Like, yeah, it makes sense because she's like a bunch of random Joe Schmoes. But, like, I don't really think the representation's all that good, and it kind of makes no sense. Like, you're 5 days old, you don't know what a handshake is, but you know what pronouns are. Man, I don't know, but, stop getting really mad over it, because it's kind of stupid. Why is Draculaura a witch? Like, huh? Anyway, aside from these three big offenders, probably far the biggest people they botch has to be both Cleo and Deuce. That's for one sole reason, and it's also the reason why almost all the other characters suck, is because they won the one thing that Monster High was able to diverge. Although a lot of people think that the big way Monster High changed the game or twisted the whole girly format was just by them being monsters, I would argue that the biggest reason why it kind of just changed the game or twisted the way the girl doll line was because all the characters weren't exactly stereotypes. Yes, they have some bases of it, like 𝖘𝖕𝖊𝖈𝖎 the mean girl, Deuce is the popular guy, Laguna's the freaking eco chick that mother's probably like the vegan teacher or something. Yes, Monster High did play into these stereotypes a bit. They actually made them like three-dimensional characters and didn't make them douchebags. They also took regular like formats or plot beats in regular high school stories, Like how, there's basically the new girl in school, but she falls in love with the mean girl's boyfriend. And normally how that thing will be like the mean girl's actually a douche in front of the freaking boyfriend and he decides to break up with her. But no, Deuce and Cleo are surprisingly in a really healthy relationship. And once Cleo gets past her snottiness and selfishness, she's actually a pretty decent person. Two other good examples of this have to be Ghoulia and Claudine. Ghoulia in like a regular story would be like the side lackey of the mean girl, that being Cleo. But no, Ghoulia is actually a freaking genius, and she's probably, in my opinion, one of my favorite characters, just because she's kind of done with everyone's BS and is kind of the most reasonable one there too. Also, Ghoulia always gets done dirty when it's like any form of the reboot. I'm pretty sure in the other CGI one, she wasn't even in it, and in this one, I would not touch that thing with a 6.5-foot pole. And second, Claudine in the original. Claudine kind of gave off that vibe of like sassy, nice girl who's also tends to be black, which is kind of weird because there's always like one minority in these type of high school shows. Did anyone else find that like really weird? But Claudine's life doesn't revolve around her friends. She has 2 characters and tons of other relationships. Though I would also say she's kind of gotten done dirty because unlike a lot of the other characters who got their own solo movies, she rarely kind of gets like her own spotlight. Like even her sister's gotten more of it. But still, you could basically round up almost every Monster High character to some form of stereotype, but you can kind of see how they completely are way more than that, and they oftentimes reverse the trope. But in the other one, they're kind of just played straight, which is easily the biggest issue with the movie is that it feels like a regular high school movie with only bits and pieces of the whole monster elements. Like aside from the main plot line of Claudine wanting to turn human or whatever, there's nothing much. Listen, I think it's a good idea to go for like a racism allegory in some form of Monster High movie. They've done it already before, which I'm going to be talking about. But like, how did you botch it this bad?
Humans are unbearable, altogether terrible, just a bunch of freaky freaks.
Yeah, this is like an alternate universe, but I think it was much better to use the allegory they did in the other one because it made more sense and it was actually pretty accurate to how a lot of racism really does work. Those not aware, in the more animated, shortish movie, it went down kind of like this. Hey, we're vampires. Hey, we're werewolves. Oh, that's really cool. Actually, we hate each other. Hey guys, don't hate each other, but totally hate each other with some minor manipulation. We still hate each other. Stop being cringe. Okay. You suck and we hope you die. Okay. Despite that monotone example, it was actually pretty progressive for the time, and it kind of showed how world leaders will try to make it seem, oh, we're not racist, let's bring each other together, even though they're kind of manipulating them to hate each other even more. For going for the normie approach, they also did that even better somehow. In the Monster High world, rather than in the movie with everyone just straight up hating them for not a great reason, they're straight up afraid. They don't think they're awful people or just straight up the worst people to ever exist. They're literally afraid of them. And it's only until when they finally meet them they realize, oh, you guys are pretty chill. Let's hang out. So did the movie forget that, like, humans have been established at the school many times before and people were kind of okay with it? This guy was half human and no one cared. He just went for some bullying. It's not like the school was falling apart. Racism allegory just feels so on the nose and literal to the point where it might as well be beating you over the head with a hammer. Man, I don't know. I just think the way they did it was really goofy, especially with Claudine being, like, a werewolf. Does everyone not know what a werewolf is? Do you not understand what a werewolf is? Wait, isn't Cleo and Ghoulia just like dead humans? Isn't Frankie like 10 different humans? What's the league? Just what? I kind of feel like the movie's both trying to be a Monster High reboot, but at the same time trying to be like High School Musical, but neither is working. The Monster High School is bland and just kind of bent out of shape. It looks like an average spooky school. It doesn't have any of the charm that the old one did. Also, oh my gosh, these costumes look ugly as hell. What the hell? But on the other side, like I said, it's trying to be a High School Musical or at least replicate those Disney freaking high school stuff. And the thing with those guys have is they at least have a bit of charm, as kind of cringy as they are. But this movie doesn't have any charm. It just feels like it's trying to copy and paste it. Adaptations are extremely hard, and that's why the majority of them suck. But some things just shouldn't really be adapted. Monster High just loses its charm more and more times it tries to get rebooted and whatever. And I think at the end of the day, as I and all fans really want, it's just the old thing back. And I get that's gonna be hard, and animation is very expensive, but this is just not doing it for me, Chief.